Hi, and thank you so much for joining me. I'm Julia with Julia Sue Stamping. Today I have 5 cards I'm going to make with you. 5, and they're super quick and easy. You're going to be amazed at how quickly these cards come together. They're very fallish and a lot of fun to create. If this is your first time to the channel, then welcome and thank you for joining. If you've been here a lot of times, then welcome back, and I'm really glad that you're here. I live in Northeast Ohio, and I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, so everything I use is Stampin' Up! Let's get started. So what I'm going to do first is bring out all of the goodies. We're using a lot of inks with these cards. I've got some pumpkin pie. I tried to pull out a whole bunch of fall type colors. Old olive. Got Cajun craze, some cherry cobbler, as well as crushed curry. And we will use all those. A little bit of memento black. Put those over to the side. These stamp sets are the Sweetly Scripted and Leaf Collection. This is a background stamp. It's huge. And very important player today is the Simply Chamois, and you'll see why in a few minutes. Here are the paper items that are going to be used. I've got some basic black and basic white to put on the inside, and I've cut out 5 of each. I have for the outside of the card some basic black and basic white again, 5 of each. Then I have some thick basic white that I've cut in different ways. I got the usual 4.5 by 4.25 by 11 inch, or your 8.5 by 5.5, and scored in the center of each of those enough to make 5 cards. All right, I'm going to grab the Leaf Collection and show you how ginormous it is. It's really big. So what you want to use with it usually is a very large size. Let's see what size this says it is. It's J, acrylic block. This thing is big enough to have its own zip code. It's huge. So is this stamp. It's absolutely ginormous. And as you can see, it goes and covers the entire size J acrylic block. It's so big. We're going to start off with the crushed curry ink. You take the smaller item to the larger item, and often the stamp is smaller, so then it goes on to the ink pad. But in this case, the ink pad is smaller than the stamp, so we're going to start with the ink pad going on the stamp. And I am doing just a slightly turn when I'm doing it because I'm trying to keep it from showing the edge of the stamp, the ink pad on there. I see this pretty well inked up. You can actually see the ink on it. Can you see how it's shiny like that? And then I place the card stock on. Put it down, and I'm going to use my fingers to make sure I've got it down there really well. Another good thing to do is to take a piece of grid paper, and then you can use that to really rub all around. If you want, you could use an acrylic block to help rub on there to help make sure that all of the ink is distributed. All right, lifting it up. And now here's the tricky part. So I'm going to take my Take Your Pick tool, and I'm going to use that to lift up an edge of it and then bring it up. There we go. So this is 5 inches here so that I can cut them in 1-inch strips. Now, the reason why our Simply Chamois plays a big starring role today is I'm going to take it out, set this aside to dry, and clean that stamp. When I feel like it's nice and clean, because it's just too big for me to take this to the chamois, I take the chamois to it. Now I've gone ahead and I have this in the crushed curry. I have it in the pumpkin pie and also in old olive, all stamped and ready to go on the outside sheet of our paper for our project. Now I'm going to go ahead and lift this off the acrylic block. Let's pretend I don't have this. One way that I can use the stamp still is if I keep it in the block here. Now I could also put it on my work surface if I wanted to and just use it that way. But I'm going to keep it into the case right now, and I'm going to use the Cajun Craze to ink up the stamp. I'm going to have to turn it a little bit because I don't want to get the sides all inky of the case, the stamp case. So I'm putting the ink on and turning the case a little as I do it so that I can get the ink on the stamp all the way. I just want to make sure it's really on there. There we go. How's that look? Does it look pretty inked up? All right, laying the cardstock down. I'm going to go in with the grid paper and rub it, especially at the edges, to help make sure it's on there nicely. Getting it all the edges, the middle part. Lift off the grid paper, pick up the paper, the cardstock. That turned out very nicely. Set that aside to dry. Or you can use your stamp case another way. So I'm going to wipe off the ink again using my chamois. Okay, good. Putting it back into the case where I keep it. Peeling this off. Now I'm going to go ahead and just lay it on top of the case. Went over to the edge just a little bit. All right, and this is another way you can use a background stamp if you don't have the huge acrylic block. This time I've got the cherry cobbler and inking up the stamp. It will give a little in the center, so I'm going to have to really make sure that it is inked all the way around. How's that look? Does it look pretty inked to you? Closing that ink up, placing this piece of cardstock on, lay it down, and now coming in with the grid paper, I'm going to rub really well all around the edges. Now lifting it up. Beautiful. That turned out very nicely. Very good. And then simply clean it off. The next step is cutting each of these into 1-inch strips. So I use the paper trimmer to trim it up. So I get these into 1-inch strips. Now I'm going to also try to keep them in order. So I lift them back up, putting them in order, and set them aside. When all of the pieces have been cut, now it's time for assembly. Bring in the black pieces that I've got for the base here, and I'm going to begin with a bottom of that cherry cobbler. As you can see, now I have them all on and I have them organized. I'm going to use the glue adhesive to help me get them onto these sheets well because it's so tight. I've got it on the black very, very tightly. So I'm going to just put the adhesive on and get it down there real low. This way I can move them around just a tiny bit if I need to help make sure that they're in the exact spot that I want. So I barely put the adhesive on. when you're using the glue, it's really easy to use too much as well as use not enough. So you need to be careful to get that in between. Once we have all those pieces adhered to the black base, we're going to go ahead then and do the sentiment. So I have some pieces that have been cut here. They're about 7/8 of an inch by like 4 1/4 or 5 1/4 or 4, whatever the width of the black base is. And I will have all the details listed on my blog, so please be sure you check that out. Let's go ahead and get the sentiments then from the Sweetly Scripted stamp set. And I'm going to start with a happy birthday. Bringing in a piece of grid paper, setting these to the side. I'm going to open up the Memento ink and ink up the happy birthday. I'll use that on one of these. So just stamp it down and up. Now we do some assembly, and here's the last one. I think I'll have this one be right here. Using the dimensionals then, it's time to put these onto the base. So I'm going to lift these up. And because it's bigger, I'm going to put one in the middle as well. Now, if you already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, that's great. But if you decide to use me as your demonstrator, I appreciate your support of my small business more than I could even begin to tell you. Time for the inside. I've got a piece of the basic white here. Simply putting it onto the basic black piece. Adhering it to the inside. It's a very classy look, don't you think? And then once that's done, we're going to go ahead and use some embellishments. So I'm using a little bit of the black glimmer with congratulations right there. I have the 5 finished cards here. So we've got a million thanks with the white adhesive backed sparkle gems, a happy birthday, a speedy recovery. This one I have the gold, a fun happy birthday, and then, of course, the congratulations that we started with. So all the cards completely done, 5 cards in that short time. And there you have it. How easy is it to have 5 fantastic seasonal cards all ready to send out to a friend or family member, or maybe just keep in your little stockpile because they're too pretty to send. Do you ever have that happen? Well, I suggest trying to send them out anyway. That's why you make them, right? Or usually that's why you make them. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day. Please give the video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. I appreciate your support of my small business so much. Bye.